The Winter War by Priscilla Shirer with Gina Detweiler. Chapter 26, The Right Track. When the light subsided, Levi and Xavier found themselves covered by a thick cloud. The air was cold. Their boots were sunk in deep snow. Wind whipped against their faces. "I can't see a thing," said Xavier. Their breastplates began to blink rapidly. Both boys turned until the light beamed steadily. "Guess we need to go that way," Xavier said. Levi nodded. The two trudged in the direction the breastplates pointed. They still had no idea where they were because of the heavy cloud that seemed to rest upon them. "Must be Rue," Xavier said. "What?" "The cloud. He said he would be with us." "Oh, yeah." The cloud suddenly disappeared just before the boys collided with two boulders sticking out of the snow. The rocks were tall and narrow, shaped like triangles that came to sharp points at the top. "That's weird," said Xavier. They went up to the rocks to investigate and found a narrow opening between them, a path that cut deep into the snowy mountainside. Levi checked his breastplate. It was beaming steadily when he faced up the hill. "I guess that's the path we're looking for," he said. They gazed at the steep path with consternation. Ice and snow covered the slope, which rose up to a thick, dark cloud that encircled the peak. There was one sky pod visible from where they stood, but they knew that there were bone breakers up there with very keen eyesight. "Our cloud is gone," Xavier said. "What if those birds see us?" "Let's hope they're not looking this way." Levi was glad their clothing and armor were all white, so they would blend in with the snow. Xavier was about to start up the path when he stopped and turned to Levi. "Sorry, you can go first," he said, "if you want." Levi shook his head. "No, that's okay." Xavier nodded, planted his stick in the snow, and took a step onto the path. His boot instantly sprouted sharp cleats that dug into the ice, giving him secure footing. The same thing happened for Levi. They began their trek up the steep path, neither of them speaking, concentrating on their footsteps. The path twisted and turned and sometimes required them to use their hands to climb from ledge to ledge, but they made steady progress upward. Occasionally, Xavier would stop to look up to the sky pod, watching for movement, any sign that they had been spotted, but all remained quiet. They reached a wider ledge, and Xavier stopped. "Let's take a break," he said. "I don't need a break," said Levi. "Well, I do." Xavier sat down on the ledge, setting his stick aside. Levi sighed and sat down beside him. "I'd sure love a bacon burger about now," Xavier said. Levi knew he was trying to get him to say something like, "I would go for two bacon burgers and cheese fries and a chocolate shake," but he didn't say anything. He heard Xavier sigh. "Look, I know you're mad at me, and I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." Levi glanced at Xavier, surprised. "It's okay." "No, it's not okay. I let you down. I thought I was, well, I guess I was just showing off. It was wrong." Levi felt something hard inside of him get a little bit softer. "I wasn't much help," he said. "I was too busy thinking about my dad." "I get that. We're all thinking about him." Another silence. Then Xavier looked up toward the dark cloud that ringed the top of the mountain, which was much closer now. "I guess we can go as far as that cloud," he said. "The crater can't be too much farther beyond that." "Yeah," Levi said. "The cloud will give us some cover, and maybe we'll be able to see what's up there." They started up the mountain again. Levi felt lighter, as if a weight had been taken off his shoulders. Maybe it was Xavier's apology or his own admission that he might have contributed to the problem. Maybe it was that the heavy silence between them didn't feel quite as heavy anymore. In a few minutes, they reached the edge of the dark cloud that rimmed the crater. The noxious fumes of the cloud made their throats burn. They held their breath as they continued up, gasping for air once their heads cleared the cloud layer. To their surprise, brilliant sunshine greeted them. They could see to the rim of the crater, where lava flowed down the side of the mountain, turning to steam when it hit the snow and ice. But it was what they saw above the crater that shocked them to stillness. The tip of a mammoth pyramid rose from the top of the mountain. It looked like it was made of some very smooth black stone that shone in the sunlight. A column of thick smoke rose from the very tip of the pyramid, forming a dark cloud overhead. "Is that the fortress?" asked Xavier, shocked at what he saw. "That pyramid?" "Must be," said Levi. He didn't want to say out loud what they both were thinking, that this fortress looked indestructible. He pulled the glimmer glass from his pocket. "So that's your gift?" Xavier asked. "Yeah." "What's it do?" "It helps me see things." Levi held it up to his eye and stared up at the fortress. "Could I try it?" Xavier asked as he watched Levi studying the fortress through the glass. Levi glanced at him, uncertain. "I'm not sure." "Never mind, Ruach gave it to you, not to me." Levi nodded and turned back to the glass. "I see forgers, but not regular forgers. They look as though they are made of rock. There's hundreds, maybe 1,000. They're building catapults, I think, maybe to hurl lava fireballs down the mountain." "What about the Ascalons? Do you see them?" Xavier asked. Levi shook his head. "They must be somewhere," Xavier said. "Maybe they're inside." "No, they aren't." Xavier looked at Levi. "You can see inside?" "Yeah, but only partially. I need to get up higher. I think there's something going on in there." "That's not a good idea," said Xavier. "It's too dangerous. You might be seen if you go any farther up." Xavier glanced nervously at the sky pod directly across from the fortress. The bone breakers would have them in their direct line of sight. "I'm going," said Levi. "Stay here and warn me if you see the birds coming." "I think I should come with you." "No." Levi glared at Xavier, who backed down. "Okay," he said. "Just hurry." Levi tucked the glass back in his pocket and started to climb farther, above the cloud that ringed the mountain. He climbed all the way to the edge of the ice. Beyond that was crusty black lava, all the way up to the crater. He lay on his belly and held the glass to his eye once more. "See anything?" Xavier called up. Levi didn't answer. He strained to make out the shapes that were moving about inside the pyramid. The vast space was mostly empty except for a huge, roiling pit of lava in the middle. A set of stairs led to a throne where Thane himself was sitting. 3 creepy-looking figures were stirring the lava with long sticks. Or were they bones? Suddenly, something started to emerge from the lava. A giant figure that seemed to harden into rock. It looked like the creatures on the ramparts. So that's where they came from. "He's making new soldiers from the lava," Levi called down to Xavier. "They're coming out of a pit." "Lava forgers," said Xavier. "Yeah." Levi was about to lower the glass when something moved at the corner of his vision. He noticed then a figure at the foot of the stairs, like a person, but he was half metal. Levi gasped. It was a prisoner, not fully metallized yet. Something like what Rook had looked like when they had seen him in Ponyros's prison the first time. The prisoner was on his knees. Levi couldn't hear his words. but had the impression that the prisoner was begging for his life. Then Thane raised his huge hammer and pointed the glowing end at him. It looked like a pronouncement of judgment. The prisoner threw himself to the floor as a forger that was standing guard went over and touched him. Just a small touch. The prisoner screamed in terror as the metal parts of him began to melt, his flesh burning, turning to ash. Levi jerked backward in horror, the arm holding the glass flying up so that it glinted in the sunlight. "Levi, what's wrong?" Xavier called from below. "Nothing," Levi said, recovering his shock. "I'm fine. I'm coming down." "Bone breakers?" A second later, Levi heard an ear-shattering screech. "Levi, come down now!" Levi looked up to see two bone breakers hurtling toward him. His heart hammering, he started to scramble down the slope, still clutching the glass. But he missed his footing and began to slide, trying to grasp something solid with his free hand to stop his momentum. The screeching of the birds grew louder. He yelled out a strangled help. He slammed hard into something solid that stopped his sliding. Xavier stood over him, his staff firmly planted in his path. Levi grabbed hold of the staff just as one of the birds snatched at him, its powerful talons gripping his arm. He saw the bird's beak opening, lunging for the glass in his hand. Xavier swung his sword at the bird, knocking it off Levi's arm. The other bone breaker flew in to attack. Levi shoved the glass in his pocket and grabbed his kris. He swiped at the bird just as the blade extended, catching it by surprise. The bird flew off with a scream, while Xavier swung his sword down on the first bird, silencing it for good. It instantly turned to ash that blew away on the wind. Once free of the birds, the two boys wasted no time scrambling down to the dark cloud where they would be out of sight in case other bone breakers were on their way. They took cover and lay still, gasping for breath. "That was close," Levi said with a long moment. "Yeah," Xavier paused. "The glass was shining. That's how they saw you." Levi pulled the glass from his pocket and looked at it. "I wondered. Thanks for helping me." "Sure. Did you see anything up there?" Levi took a deep breath and told Xavier about the prisoner burned up by the touch of a lava forger. "Ruach said I would see things that I didn't want to see." He glanced at Xavier, who was staring at him wide-eyed with shock. "You're lucky you got a stick," he smirked. "I'm not so sure. The thing turns into a snake when you least expect it." "Seriously? That's kind of cool." Xavier grinned. Then he sat up and glanced down the mountain. "It's going to be as hard going down as it was going up," he said. "Then we should get started," Levi said. "I think we've seen enough for one day." "You can say that again."